Every year in Pune, in those days, in 2015 or 16, about 600 tons of POP was added because of immersion in the river. That is huge. It would be there till eternity if you don't break it. But let us say if you break it, now if you want to crush it, again make slurry, now you cannot make idol out of it. I removed water or adjusted water to such an extent that it could be reformed. I can make idols once again. And so we would demonstrate for the first time that yes, in a large scale also we can convert this POP, plaster of Paris, again into the remoldable form, and we can use it a number of times. About 85% of the plaster of Paris comes from the mines, from Himachal Pradesh and Rajasthan. Taking something from environment is also hazard. Adding something to river is also hazard. So it is two-pronged approach. If we can reuse it again and again and again, a number of times, that is more eco-friendly. This Ganesh idol, that great problem that is discussed and debated, is just 2% of the entire amount. This is construction grade POP. If I can recover and if I can convince these people, it would be great. The 2-3 grades of POP used for denture. And one college requires about 2 tons of POP in very different forms. Dentist in around particular area, they use it. And maybe once in a month, they waste about 5 kgs of POP per practitioner. That is considered as part of medical waste. So medical waste consists of hazardous medical waste, non-hazardous medical waste and so on. But once it is bracketed under medical waste, they have to pay some huge amount per kg. It is legally not allowed to carry out so-called pyrolysis or depolymerization of rubber, because that involves a lot of sulfur dioxide is emitted and so on. So some of the rubber industry people said, why don't you take this up and tell us something, and officially we can do that. So yes, I have many such solutions to the problem, but industries, they don't want to take that as a venture. They would say, I'll give you free of cost, all these feeders I would give you. You do whatever you want. Over a period of time, let us say 5 years down the line, we will have a technical solution for almost every type of garbage. The solid municipal waste, dry waste, is 2% of entire waste. 98% is because of the so-called development. You are having roads, you are having construction, you are having demolitions, you are having mining for getting a lot of material. So everything generates a lot of waste. The rest of the thing is 2%. And amongst those 2%, 10 to 15% is polymer. I think we should watch what I am consuming and what I am wasting. Because I'll tell you some example, like you have cement, you have ceramic material, you have glass material, you have terracotta material. All these things are non-biodegradable. Paper, if it is buried in clay, it is not biodegradable.
Welcome to today's episode of What's a Pro, where we are thrilled to have Dr. Jayant Gadgil from Pune, India. Dr. Jayant Gadgil is a renowned polymer scientist and passionate educator. Dr. Gadgil brings over a decade of experience in both teaching and pioneering research in the field of polymer science. His work has led to significant advancements in environmental sustainability, focusing on innovative approaches to recycling and reusing materials that would otherwise contribute to waste. Join us as Dr. Gadgil shares his journey from the lab to the classrooms, his groundbreaking research in depolymerizing common plastics, and his vision for a cleaner and greener future. Please welcome Dr. Jayant Gadgil. Welcome, Dr. Gadgil, to What's a Pro.
Hello.
Can you introduce yourself in your own words? What your current projects are? What do you do?
Okay. So at this moment, I'm working on waste management, chemistry of waste management for past 10 years. Actually, to begin with, I was a chemist, organic chemist, then shifted to polymer chemist. I did my doctoral work. Then I taught masters in polymer science for about 12 years. And then I left that. And then general educating about science, general sciences, polymer science, and so on. Research was going on. And for past 10 years, I'm working on waste management of various different types of materials, chemicals, and so on.
Can you tell us about what polymer science is all about?
So, polymer science is a small branch of organic chemistry, which is a branch of chemistry, where and polymer has got other aspects also like physics, biology, maths, stats, and so on. So, as a chemist, you take a chemical known as monomer, you convert that into multiple uh, ways in which you join the chemical and make it, and you say that it is a polymer. So you have styrene and you make polystyrene. So this is what a chemist and a synthesis person do. Then starts a job of physics person. He would start asking, when does it melt? If it melts, what is viscosity? Will it be soluble in this liquid or that liquid? What is viscosity? If it is a crystal, what is property of crystal? So on and so good. So this is physics. Then what is effect of say polystyrene or any polymer on living being? Is it toxic? Is it neutral? Is it helping? It is bioactive and so on. So all these sciences are somehow linked. And then environmental impact. So environmental science also comes into picture.
Polymer science is little unique side of science. How did
Yeah.
you pick this side?
Okay. I'll start with how I went for so-called research. So to begin with, I come from a middle class background where education is something that we can get, not monetary help, nothing more. So basically, if I'm a bit good at my studies, it was almost decided that I would go for a doctorate. But I was not sure that I would be in research. So I did my bachelor's, then I went to IIT Mumbai, one of the prestigious institute in India. And surprisingly, while pursuing masters, there was an elective in polymer science, but I did not choose it at that time in 1984 or so. Polymer was not so popular or not so much discussed. So I did not choose. I chose to study dyes and drugs and some other electives. But then, after my MSc was over, somehow I joined NCL on some project with my, finally, he became my guide, but on a project on glucose isomerase. So that was, we were developing polymer to capture enzymes which would be converting glucose to fructose. So a bit complicated thing. So there I was introduced to polymer. And then I thought that organic chemistry is such a vast field that even if I spend entire life, what my contribution to organic chemistry would be minuscule. So I thought, I mean, being a little bit egoistic, polymer was so-called upcoming field. So maybe if I spend entire lifetime, so maybe I would make a little bit difference to at least people around me. So I selected polymer. Then I chose to do, I mean, pursue doctorate, and I did that. And then I did lot many things during those days because my guide was open. He could allow me to work in any field. Like as I said, enzyme immobilization was one field. And I did practically anything. Like inorganic chemistry, because some support was needed, alumina support. So I synthesized alumina. That is inorganic chemistry. I did some physical chemistry and so on. Photosensitive polymers. Then, after my doctoral work was over, I joined a college where master's course was run, polymer science, for the first time. So I started from scratch in that department, and for 12 years I taught that master's course. And for various different reasons, all the courses I had opportunity to teach. So almost we can say out of 10 courses, 7 courses I taught, and 3 were practical that anyway I used to supervise. So that was a kind of saturation. So I said, now if I continue, I'll be wasting my time. And I wanted to do research. And in India, academics and research, they don't go hand in hand. They become counterproductive beyond certain limit. And then I wanted to have actually a linkage where my work, I'm carrying out research, which is useful for industry. And whatever my learning from my research, I should be in a position to teach the students. But somehow syllabus does not change that frequently and that quickly. Industries are also not that receptive. So all three things cannot be done together. So I did one after another. I did research, continued with research, but then I went for teaching. Then I left teaching, and then it was kind of industrial consultancy and so on. So in 2014, I came across a project which was run or rather dream project of one of great Indian scientist, Dr. Vasanta Govarikar. His dream was to convert non-edible oil into hydrocarbons. And at that time, he gave me full freedom to design a new catalyst and so on. And I worked on that project for 1 year, cracked that. So that was the beginning of my learning in waste management. So used oil, non-edible oil, and so on. Everything we could convert it into petrol diesel like thing. We carried out trials and it was successful. Then, having taught polymerization, that is how to make polymer. So it is like, okay, if I know how to make polymer, I should know how to break polymer. So I did exactly opposite. I started breaking polymer and then that patented catalyst and all that I would explain later.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that was my questions coming forward. That is what
Yes.
depolymerization. So maybe
Yes.
then we can talk more about it. But you did your doctorate or postdoctorate fellowship in Paris, Pune, and Mumbai, right? Can you tell us about
Uh,
that experience?
mainly in Paris.
Okay.
Basically, as I was getting education in IIT Mumbai. That was really prestigious institute,
Mm.
and all fees and everything was really very cheap. And I knew that had it been so-called private colleges, I couldn't have afforded it. So it is a kind of social responsibility on me that I should work here. So I had decided that for a couple of years I have to sit here in India and work. Then I got research fellowship for 5 years to get my doctorate. So that was again something, a social responsibility that if I have got fellowship for 5 years, at least 10 years, I should spend teaching people what I have learned. So I joined a college and then later, this was an opportunity. Again, it was coincidence. I did my doctorate. Then my wife also was pursuing doctorate around same time. She finished her doctorate and then we said, okay, now there is a lot of vacant time. So out of nothing, we started learning French. For 2 years, we learned. And since I know French, some of the Indo-French projects in NCL, National Chemical Laboratory, they knew me. So they thought if somebody is to be sent to Paris, okay, this chap is good. He knows French. So he won't feel, being outsider or so. So I went there. And then I enjoyed it because the atmosphere over there was very free, open. And they said, okay, so long as you are working in the lab in nice manner, and they never work in parallel manner. So something is happening over there in a lab. So in India, we used to do, or we used to carry out two, three things at a time. Purifying a chemical, boiling another chemical, synthesize something, because we were short of time. We always felt it that way, or short of facility. If some facility is available today, let me use it. So they were very happy that, okay, I'm doing two, three things. So they said, okay, if you feel like that, if you have running that reaction during that period, if you want to visit museums, you go ahead, no problem. And I was very much interested in fine art, painting, sculpting, and so on. So I went there, and almost I can say that it was yet another doctoral kind of work in visual art as well. So that was very great situation. I worked near nuclear facility in France.
Wow.
So that was really the golden period for me. And during my teaching at masters, there was optional thing that the student could, if they want, undertake a small research project. So I try to convince people or try to make it a bit compulsory that every student would get some or other uh, research project. So one of my student was interested in archaeology. So why not take a project in polymer in archaeology? One of them was interested in industrial things, foundry, and so okay. So resins in foundry. So about 100 plus projects I undertook with the students. And so it was a nice, enriching experience teaching and these projects in the college for masters. And so, uh, I worked on very frontline things like thermo-associative polymers, photosensitive polymers, conducting polymers, and so on. Plus, very primitive one, whatever that has been done for past say 100 years, I did same also. So there was a range of things that I undertook.
Right. So when you say you take these kind of projects, what do you mean by you take this project? Like what exactly you do? Like someone like a non-scientist, like
Yes.
can you explain it as a to a common person? Like what do you do?
Uh, Basically, since I was curious person, and industry people used to say that we cannot define any research problem or challenge statement. You find out if you can find. So I used to talk to them, and then I used to understand that what is something that I can contribute to. Like people used foundry resin, which was imported from outside. So I could help them in making it, or that used to have some problem during rainy season. Some problem is there because the relative humidity is more. So I used to say, okay, you give me this problem, we'll solve it over a period of whatever 2 months, 6 weeks, or whatever, and we could solve it. So I used to jump on a project or problem and then try to solve it. So it is not that industry says that this is my problem and can you solve it. I used to go and then say that I can solve it.
Very impressive. Moving towards your research, you have done a groundbreaking work with polyurethane foam waste management. Tell us about it. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you tell us more
Uh,
about, like how did you find
yes.
the project and what exactly you did with that?
Yes. So since I had first patent on depolymerizing some of the easy polymers like polyethylene, HDP, LDP, polypropylene, and so on. Actually, um, I'll create some background for before coming to polyurethane. Generally, whenever we are talking about polymers and creating problems, we are talking about packaging material.
Right.
So there are six packaging materials. That is HDP, that is high density polyethylene, which is used for chairs and cans. LDP for pouches and polythene bags. PP, polypropylene, again, buckets, transparent buckets, and many more applications. PPE kits, then polystyrene, thermocol or styrofoam, popularly known as styrofoam. Then PET, polyethylene terephthalate, that is PET bottle like this. We use it for water. And PVC, that is for rigid pipes and flexible pipes, and many more applications. So these six polymers come in the garbage. Out of that, I uh, I could so-called depolymerize using different range of catalysts, HDP, LDP, PP. Brought together also, there is not a big problem because whatever that is formed is hydrocarbon or petroleum. Whereas polystyrene also gives you some liquid, but that should not be burned. So that can be used for some other purpose.
Mm.
So this is what I did. So breaking polymer was easy for me. Then it was a kind of I got feel for it. Now I can solve problem. So more challenging was polyurethane, which is not like this.
Right.
All these six polymers which I mentioned, they can be molten and formed together. That's what they call it as thermoplastic. You can melt it again and again, and if possible, you can use it. So this polyurethane is challenging in the sense that you cannot melt it.
Right.
Why you can't melt it? Because they say that it is cross-linked. So let us say if you are having two, three, 10 threads, and they are somehow tied in between. So you cannot pull out one thread. So you cannot melt it. You cannot convert it into solution. So you cannot heat it. So you need to break using a kind of synthetic chemical scissor. So my challenge was how to cut it. So when you start cutting something, sometimes you end up cutting the main polymer, and sometimes you end up cutting the cross-linking thing. So you have to take chance. So you have to adjust the reaction conditions in such a manner that, okay, some of them are cut by accident, no problem, but majority of your crosslinks should be cut. So we adjusted reaction conditions such that the polyurethane foam was about 60% that was converted into meltable form. Still, we have a challenge that what about rest of the 30-40%? And then can I make something useful from whatever we did? Because that becomes very meltable, very soft and like that. So if we want to have some strength to it, that is challenge, and that's what we need to pursue further. So this was not possible at all so far. Now this has become possible. So next couple of things that we need to achieve is how to make strong, how to make it 100%, and so on.
Nice, nice. And how about plaster of Paris? That also you worked on that
Ah,
project too.
yes. Actually, plaster of Paris, I don't think it is research wise something very great.
Mm.
Actually, when I was teaching a ninth grade student, there were some two lines. What is plaster of Paris and how it is different than gypsum or calcium sulfate or something. And there was some amount of water makes it plaster of Paris, and the amount of water, if it is changed, that becomes something different. So if you can bring it back to that level of water content, that can be reused. Normally, it is presumed that plaster of Paris, you make idol or statue out of it.
Mm.
Great, it would be there till eternity if you don't break it.
Mhm.
But let us say if you break it, now you if you want to crush it, again make slurry, now you cannot make idol out of it.
Mm.
So that was kind of irreversible. You have to throw it away.
Yeah.
And typically in India, especially in Pune, the problem, religious problem of
Ganpati.
God Ganesh, Ganpati, and its immersion. Every year in Pune, in those days, in 2015 or 16, about 600 tons of POP was added because of immersion
Wow.
in the river. That is huge.
Yeah.
First thing is that's going to make the river clog.
Right.
And second thing is it's all waste. So if I can use it some way and if possibly reuse, that is great.
Mm.
So those two lines in ninth standard chemistry were enough for me to carry out some work for 2 months and confirm that I can do it. Then making what you can say SOP, standard operating procedure, at what temperature I should heat, how long I should heat it, and how I would check whether it is successful or not. So I approached the people who could give me about 1 ton of Ganpati idol.
Mm.
Then I converted that. I removed water or adjusted water to such an extent that it could be reformed. I can make idols once again. And so I declared that in a press conference, and that was, I mean, people were happy about it. But this is not taken up as a routine process.
Mm.
The people who were affected, like those who make Ganesh idol, they came. About more than 1 lakh families in Maharashtra will be affected if POP is banned because of the so-called hazard of environment. But if you can reuse it, obviously the ban would not be there. So they were more interested, but other factors were, not supporting. So now we are in a position where there are some people who are supporting financially. These idol makers are also supporting us. And so we would demonstrate for the first time that yes, in a large scale also, we can convert this POP, plaster of Paris, again into the moldable, remoldable form, and we can use it a number of times. It has at least two things. One is it would not go and dumped in the river.
Right.
Second is plaster of Paris. About 85% of the plaster of Paris comes from the mines from Himachal Pradesh and Rajasthan. So every year you just go on mining that. That's also going to deplete it. So that is also environmental hazard. They are taking something from environment is also a hazard. Adding something to river is also a hazard. So it is two-pronged approach. If we can reuse it again and again and again, in number of times, that is more eco-friendly. So that was good thing. At that time, I did not realize that whether immersing Ganesh idol, whether it would be POP or some other thing, was a very small problem. Because, as I explained, in Pune, in those days, 600 tons of POP or whatever material was dumped in the river in just 8 days.
Yeah.
But then I realized that around Pune, since it is a developing city, about 100 tons of POP is wasted during construction.
Oh.
So, entire year around that work is going on because that thing is used indoor. So, even during rainy season, that is used and wasted.
Right.
So, this Ganesh idol, that great problem that is discussed and debated, is just 2% of the entire amount.
Wow.
This is construction grade POP. If I can recover and if I can convince these people, it would be great. Another thing is dental college people. Again, minuscule, but good grade. They have good grades of POP, two, three grades of POP used for denture. And one college requires about 2 tons of POP in very different forms. If they can recover it, that would be help. So one of the dental colleges in Pune is doing that for past, I think, 5 years or so. So this is what it is now. It would be my task to go to construction people and convince them that you can recover it. And the problem in it is the cost of POP is very less.
Mhm.
And I tell you one incident. One of my sculptor friend, very good friend of mine, I went to him many times. About 20 years ago, I had been to his place and I saw a lot of used POP. So I told him I can give you some recipe where you can recover it and use it again.
Mm.
So he saw at me, come on, what you are saying? If I give him, give the vendor the order, next day he will come with a vehicle and it would be some 1,000 rupees. Who would rather take efforts to take it, crush it, and whatever your temperature adjustment and so on? I don't care. So cost of POP is so small that people are not interested in recovering it.
It's more of social responsibility than
Yes,
more of
yes,
business. That's a big challenge then. So
yeah.
how are you dealing with these challenges? Like how do you convince people? Like
At one end, creating awareness, and another end, the situation is changing. So, as I said, that money is not a big problem for POP. You just throw it away.
Mm.
But now, what is happening is dentist in around a particular area, they use it, and maybe once in a month they waste about 5 kgs of POP per practitioner.
Wow.
Not a big amount,
Okay.
but that is considered as part of medical waste. So medical waste consists of hazardous medical waste, non-hazardous medical waste, and so on. But once it is bracketed under medical waste, they have to pay some huge amount per kg.
Okay.
And so if they throw it away somewhere, and if people find that in your area, say 5 kgs of plaster of Paris is being thrown, so all the dentists in that area would be fined.
Oh, okay.
So typical problem is then, okay, from region A, if a dentist throws it in the area of dentist B, he would be saved. But then same game can be played by a dentist in the area B. So if there is some official way of collecting that and we would recycle it. So openly you say that this is my 5 kgs of POP. I have given it to this agency, just like we have it in case of e-waste, that you write it, that I have disposed of my computer or whatever e-waste. Those people say that we have taken it and we will dispose it off in right manner. And that right manner is prescribed about e-waste. Such right manner is not prescribed about POP or many other things. But now, since they are getting caught and getting fined for that, now yes, they are more willing to look at it.
You also created something for tabla, right? Musical instrument.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What is it? What is that?
So actually, many a times what happens is there is some obstacle, some funding, some chemical, something. So while sitting, I carry out something else. So in that, I coated some polymer on different kinds of cloth, and then I could generate a skin like thing which can be used for percussion instruments in India. In Indian percussion instruments, we have tabla, mridangam, dhol, and so on. So it has got their own property, very different properties. And for that, either they have to kill animal or they have to take skin of dead animal. And so no two skins are exactly same. Then it is also very complicated that if that, let us say animal, let us say goat, if somebody has hit the goat on the skin sometime during her lifetime, that skin becomes weak over there and that skin cannot be used. But that you would realize once you make it, you skin it, you remove the hair, and then at the end of it, you realize that this is of no use. Then what is the age of that goat? So it's very complicated thing. So instead of that, if we can have a uniform way of cloth, and if we can switch or tweak the property that I want more strong, I want more thin, because the sound changes with the thickness, the sound changes with the tension. So we can use very different kinds of clothes and very different thicknesses. So if somebody spends a lot of time on that and makes a catalog out of it, you make, let us say, meters of it. So mass manufacturing would be easier. You don't need to wait till that poor animal is dead, or you don't need to kill it. And so it is both ways.
Wow, that's nice. Any other areas that you have worked now that like you have like vast areas?
Yes. Okay. So again, I've worked on something known as patination, not for the first time. It has been practiced in Europe for past 600 years or more. In Japan also, under different names, that is used. Okay, what they do is, we know bronze and brass. It is combination of zinc and other material, copper and zinc and so on. So very different combinations. One of them becomes yellow, that we call it as brass. One of the combination becomes reddish brown, we call it as bronze. And that we know for past so many thousand years, Roman sculptures and so on. So they give some chemical treatment and make it green, make it yellow, make it red, and so on. So that is called as patination. So the sculptor friend I told just now, that I told him about POP and all. So he wanted to generate some coloration on his bronze. So he said, I have a recipe, and if you can help me, what would be the real concentration? What about hazard? What to be done? What not to be done? And so on. So that would be helpful. So I worked with him. So that was fantastic. So lot of recipes I got downloaded from internet and worked on that. And then I wrote a project to government. And forget about the being research scientist or research person. I got fellowship as a senior sculptor for 2 years. So I carried out about hundreds of chemical reactions on brass as well as bronze. My commitment in the project was for 50, but I did it for say about 100 and odd reactions, and then documented or made catalog of all the reactions. So I can have some 100 different shades from bronze, 100 different shades from brass. So if me or somebody else wants to create this kind of red, this kind of brown, this kind of maroon or whatever, so recipe is ready. So we can include that in sculpture, and then that would be, I mean, adding color to the sculpture. So
Yeah.
that's what I did.
Wow. That's nice. You also have lots of patents also in your name, right?
Huh. I have patent. I mean, first two patents are with my guide. That is for enzyme immobilization. That was, I think, that is expired long back. Then the patent for polymer depolymerization. That is, as I explained, HDP, LDP, PP. Then similar catalyst can be used for thermocol. Then we worked on rubbers as well, because actually it is not expected, it is legally not allowed to carry out so-called pyrolysis or depolymerization of rubber, because that involves a lot of sulfur dioxide is emitted and so on. So some of the rubber industry people said, why don't you take this up and tell us something, and officially we can do that. So I took three different types of rubber that are used in large amount. So we worked on that, and we could make hydrocarbon out of it. And there is another aspect. Many rubber people, they need to use something known as carbon black as filler. And generally that used to come from China.
Mhm.
And people were very happy about it. What China used to do it is they used to take rubber, they pyrolyze it, and whatever carbon comes out of it, they could sell it. But I think somewhere near Beijing Olympic, they realized that it is creating a lot of pollution. So after 2016, China people banned that activity at their end. So they said, okay, tomorrow onwards, we are not going to sell carbon black. So the rubber industry in India, they used to get that carbon black for 80 rupees a kg. Now they were, I mean, they won't mind paying 150 rupees a kg, but that was not available in the market. So if this kind of rubber can be depolymerized using our catalyst, you would get back your carbon filler, you would get back some hydrocarbon. So that was win-win situation, that throwing away that problem is also solved, and what you get back is also very important to you. So that was interesting. So that was another patent. And this polyurethane was, yes, that was a challenge. And then there are so many small things that, since I'm more curious, and whenever some obstacle is there, and there are many obstacles, I focus on some other project. But then for every such invention, we people, I'm a private individual, I'm not salaried person from some organization. If I'm having some invention, in general organizations, either you are academician or a scientist in a research lab, then the organization supports you to file a patent, pays for it, and in fact, he's given some extra count during his promotion or whatever. I don't get anything. So if I have to pay, there is huge amount, and I would rather say that instead of paying that amount and somehow securing my so-called intellectual property, I would spend that money in my research. So there are many such things, almost I say, that if I start applying for patent every now and then, probably I would be losing all the money. So there are many such inventions, but in India, the ecosystem is not really very good to convert that IP into a practice, a standard practice used by industry, and that industry also makes money, means money, and gets share to scientists. So that kind of ecosystem is even now it is not there.
Right. So, are you making any awareness of this ecosystem?
Yes, but then I'm making awareness about many things, about waste management, about POP. So it is again a parallel activity for me. Like I used to teach, but then teaching it used to ask for a lot of time from me. So it was waste of time as far as my research responsibility is concerned. So if I stop it and then create awareness, unless I create awareness, nobody is going to buy my product. So only that much awareness I would create, because then I would end up writing many things and creating awareness and so on. But that's it.
Right. But it is creditable that you used your experience and all your knowledge to start this new project, Zero Garbage Vicinity, right?
Yes.
What is this project? Like, tell us about. Uh,
Since I was carrying out all this kind of awareness program, we can say, almost every week I used to meet 5 to 6 people in my lab, show my reactor and how I'm getting hydrocarbon, and that was kind of awareness. Some people used to say that okay, you go to this industry, that industry, they would support, and so on. So that was a lot of public relation kind of things. Out of that, one such person who is actually who has started Zero Garbage. It is not owned by me. He started that activity. He said, technically, you support me. Rest of the thing I'll take care of. He is also not a multimillionaire, but he can see the opportunity and social cause in it. So he said, they will somehow get money from outside. He has a lot of contacts, and he has formed a Section 8 company, another one, where he would get support from society, and we will spend that on, let us say, first working model, and show that this works. How to generate profit is another thing, because garbage is garbage, nobody is going to pay any farthing for it. So how to make money, and that too good money, that is a challenge, but at least we will start. So both of us did that, and what we visualize is we would start working on very different types of waste. Like I haven't mentioned, but I've worked on skin, feathers, and all the proteinaceous waste of the animals and birds. It is all wasted. So I could convert that into a soluble form. So that is one, and the volume is huge, weight is very less. So yes, I have many such solutions to the problem, but industries, they don't want to take that as a venture. They would say, I'll give you free of cost, all these feeders I would give you. You do whatever you want. If you make great profit, maybe give peanuts to me, I'm happy about it. But I'm not entrepreneur by my, what you can say, passion. And I would always be interested in solving yet another problem 2 months later. So I cannot sit there and run an industry, worry about the workers, 20 workers are there, 3 are on leave, and so on. So that is not my cup of tea. So somebody like this person has come. He said he will take care of that, and he would bring in other people who would be passionate about that activity. So this is zero garbage. So over a period of time, let us say 5 years down the line, we will have a technical solution for almost every type of garbage. Now, whether it would be converted into an activity, whether that activity would be converted into a business and making money, that would be yet another thing, interesting thing to really see. But at least, I mean, as I said, I was doing all these kind of public relation and awareness. So at least there are a couple of people who walked with me This chap walked with me for 5 years. Some of them are walking with me for the last 2 years. So yes, now probably it is getting some fruits.
Nice. Yeah. That is very interesting how you're using it for it's a big social responsibility.
Yes,
So yeah, I was going to come to the commercial aspect also. Like,
yes.
why do you think students should choose polymer science as their career?
Mm, Actually, nowadays I have started believing that there has to be research in every field. Okay, I was curious about this field, but even language is interesting field. That's what I feel. Fine art is yet another one. Performing art is yet another one. In India, what I feel is that kind of research attitude is was lacking. Now, slowly people are converting or shifting towards so-called research. And so all the walks of life, they should go for research, because unless there is research, you would end up just being proud of whatever which you don't understand. I'm proud of my ancestral, let us say, dance practices. I'm proud of my frescoes in Ajanta or whatever, but I don't understand. Unless I carry out research, I would not be worthy of becoming proud. So I'm unnecessarily becoming proud. So I should have reason to be proud, and to have that reason, everybody, I mean, as many as people should go for research.
Right. Right.
And it is interconnected. Like I think why I was drifted to science for research could be that I was interested in everything at the end of maybe 10th standard, or when we have bifurcation, whether I would go for science and art. I was equally interested. I was very confused whether I should go for science or arts. I was interested in history. I was interested in Sanskrit as a language, interested in Marathi as a language, how it behaves, and so on. Somehow, people thought that having good marks means you have to take science. So I took science. And then I realized that all other researches, I can see that society behaves in this manner. A group behaves in this manner. A person behaves in this manner. But I don't have any control to see what if. What if this happens? So experimentation in science makes me feel that I'm controlling something. So my ego is more satisfied if I am working in a science lab, because I decide what will be concentration of this chemical, what would be the color that would be happening, what could be the rate, and so on. So I say that okay, rate of reaction is this. Within 2 hours, this reaction would be complete. If you want it to be fast, I'll give you how to do it. If you want it to be slow, I would give you how to do it. But it gives you more satisfaction being a science researcher. But now, in last couple of years, I've realized that economist Abhijit Banerjee, he did a lot of experiment, like whether you should give cash or you should give tur dal or lentils or so. What is more effective? In which kind of economic strata which is more effective? So now economics is also experiment. That gives you kick. That yes, this is something which I can carry out, and then I learn, I understand something out of. So everybody should, I mean, those who would like to carry out research, those who have passion, those who have that kind of uh, patience, they should go for one or other form of research.
Nice. How do you manage your time? You work on so
Uh,
many areas.
uh, yes, I had to pay price for that as well, because I loved cricket. I got training in cricket, but as I was drifted towards science, I mean, to tell you the truth, after Sunil Gavaskar retired, I haven't seen a cricket match. So that's it. So you have to live something. You cannot have everything. But then whenever I find time, I read a lot. I go to exhibitions, fine art exhibitions. I have many friends who are painters, sculptors. I have many friends who write novels, plays, screenplays, and so on. In fact, to reduce the friction when we are working and we have some obstacle, there's a lot of heat generated in us, or a lot of bad feeling or negative feeling or frustration is generated in us. So in those period, at one point of time, I had written a screenplay for Alexandria Museum. Then once I had translated or you can say subtitling of very different films or documentaries and so on. So that reduces friction, that gives fun, and that pays as well.
Wow.
So I carry out many things. So that's how it is.
Yeah. You have like lots of hidden areas that you are you are exploring things.
Yes,
And anything else that we don't know about you?
it is always a kind of competition between our fellow people. Like
Yeah.
one of my friends used to say that Jayant behaves as though he is a writer when he is among scientists. So he gets benefit. And when he is amongst the writers, he behaves as though he is a scientist. So yes, you get benefit from all this kind of juggling.
Right, right. So what do you consider you are? You're a scientist or you're a writer or you're a researcher?
No, I don't know because I'm interested in languages as well and how they behave. And so I have some of friends who are linguists,
Mm.
and being language scientist is also interesting. And nowadays it has caught up with NLP and artificial intelligence, machine language, and so on.
Right, right,
So whatever previously was just a hobby or humanities subject, now it is getting paid for it. So that is interesting for others as well.
right, right. So any advice for particularly science students, polymer science students particularly?
Okay, I would say this way that okay, even though my beard is white, I'm not aged enough to give them advice, but yes, I can cheer them, telling that uh, there are all sorts of researchers. Like in human beings, you have accountants, you have hard workers, physical manual workers, you are intelligent people, you have managers, you have rogues, you have politicians. Like that in science also, in research as well, you have rogue scientists, you have administrator scientist, manager scientist. But what I like is a crazy scientist because I believe there are two types of people. One of them is wise people, and another is idiot people. Idiot does not mean they are fools. They are having a lot of ideas which these wise people fail to understand. So they are idiots. So some idiot says that a human being can fly, and he is being called idiot, and someday there would be aeroplane. So being idiot scientist would be very crazy, very fruitful, and then you would change the world, and wise people would happily stay in it. So it should be that way.
So you promote idiot scientists.
Yes, very much.
Nice. So lastly, what simple steps can a common person take to support the sustainability in polymer usage and disposal?
Uh, Polymer is one of the culprits and largely made a scapegoat
Mhm.
because the, amongst all waste, if we take statistics, the solid municipal waste, dry waste, is 2% of entire waste. 98% is because of the so-called development. You are having roads, you are having construction, you are having demolitions, you are having mining for getting a lot of material. So everything generates a lot of waste. The rest of the thing is 2%. And amongst those 2%, 10 to 15% is polymer. I'm not denying that polymer is not a problem. It is a problem. But even if I had some magical thing to make that thing vanish, polymer thing, polymer problem, still 98% is there. What are you going to do with it? So if somebody is to be advised, I think we should watch what I'm consuming and what I'm wasting. Because I'll tell you some example, like you have cement, you have ceramic material, you have glass material, you have terracotta material. All these things are non-biodegradable.
Right.
Paper, paper, if it is buried in clay, it is not biodegradable. And all these materials are pressure on environment. And some 2 or 3 years ago, there was a paper in Nature which said that in, say, November or December 2021, it was a time when artificial things, the human being made certain things, and the weight of those things was equal to that of all living things on the earth.
Mm.
What it means is you have done so much synthetic things on planet, and if you have done those synthetic things, someday or other it is going to get wasted.
Right.
So waste management right from beginning you need to understand. This is one part. Another thing is nowadays people are talking about alternative energy sources and so on. To give you an example, if a person of say about 50 kgs weight in his adulthood, in 70 years of lifetime, every day he eats for certain calories. And I calculated how much it is and how much it is equivalent to, let us say, diesel. So entire lifetime of calories consumed by human being as a food would be over if he burns 8 kgs of diesel. That means maybe within a week or so, he's spending that much amount of energy. Or when I don't walk for 1 kilometer and go by scooter or any other such petrol consuming vehicle, I spend petrol which I burn. And if I burn that in my room of, let us say, 3 meter by 3 meter by 3 meter, I would increase temperature by 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
So this is my contribution to global warming. Only thing is, I am doing that somewhere outside and sitting quietly in home and feeling hot and generating air conditioner in itself. They are energy guzzling. So everybody needs to be very careful about what we are consuming and what can be done where that energy is not consumed. You must have energy efficient things. How much energy we are consuming? Is it worth? How much material you are consuming? So this has to be, everything has to be done in moderation. Polymer is just one of them. Some 5 years ago, people were going gaga about wind energy. I said, if there is going to be wind energy, there would be fan blades. They would be having epoxy and Kevlar and great material which would not break very easily. A time would come when you would ask me what to do with these fan blades. And the time had come. It was not a very futuristic prediction. So 5 years ago, people were very happy about it. And 2 years ago, people from Netherlands would pay you anything if you can do something with the fan blades. So anybody, even scientists, will say that I am giving you a solution, and I'm sure this is going to be 100% great solution. I'm 100% doubtful about it.
Right.
Because there is no one single solution, and a solution today is going to pose problems, and it is problem for tomorrow. So we have to take it with pinch of salt.
Right. Right. So all these new electric cars are coming up. What is your take on
Yes.
that? Electric cars or even plastic ban. Like I live in New Jersey. There is
Yes.
plastic ban here. We don't get any plastic bags here. What is
Yes.
your take on these steps that government is taking?
Um, Government should work on waste management, and they should prescribe waste management. Every material, government, before it lets you use, government should give you directive, because government can afford to spend on it, on the research. Like someday somebody is using some bottle for kids, for milk bottle, which is known to be polycarbonate bottle, and then 20 years later you say, oh, that's bad, it is having some toxic chemical. Why didn't you check it first? At least for food items, at least for kids, at least for pregnant women, because that's going to create problem and generations would be devastated. So this kind of ban never works. In US, I don't know what happens when they ban something. Is it honestly implemented? And then there would be some other thing that if you don't get plastic bag, you would use something else. But amount of plastic US citizen uses is such a huge amount that instead of banning, you say that my target by next year end it would be per capita this much. By let us say by this decade, it would be this target. Because even this Paris Convention and so on, or SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, they decided that something would happen by 2030. And in 2022, they wanted to take, let us say, stock of the situation. And almost everywhere they realized that they are way behind their target.
Wow.
So banning and all, it is just a kind of, you want to say that I did my work. Government would say, I did my work. But would it work? It may not work. So ultimately, let us say electric car. In India, from where you are going to get electricity? Today, in India, coal is giving you electricity. So you are not polluting your backyard. You are polluting backyard somewhere, some 700 miles from here. And you say that now it's clean. Even for hydrogen, how would you get hydrogen? What kind of, like if it is electrolysis, then from where this electricity would come? If you generate by chemical means, you have to hit it to 800 degrees for a particular process. Scrub synthesis, methane to hydrogen. So from where this 800 degrees centigrade temperature will be achieved? And so end-to-end accounting of energy, if you see, probably hydrogen may not be that lucrative. So, I mean, you need to have this kind of accounting, just like government has accounting for each and every dollar or rupee. We need to have such accounting for energy and for material used and material wasted. Then and then only we will realize that which is really environment friendly or which is really lucrative, which is really energy efficient and so on. Otherwise, nowadays this term has come greenwash. So it is all greenwash.
Nice. Yeah, you're truly into waste management, and you know we really need more people like you. Are you training anyone to be like you?
Well, I work with many people, and they maybe they would be inspired by that.
Right. Yeah. You
So
are
whenever somebody tells me that something new has come, I always tell them that when these new batteries were there, I told them that, okay, give me a bad battery or used battery. Because down the line, after 5 years, you are going to ask me or someone else what to do with it. So any new material is bound to come to that so-called waste or garbage. So we have to think on it.
nice. So thank you so much for all your research, for all your knowledge that you're using for it's a huge social responsibility, and you're
Yes,
taking.
indeed.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing all your insights with us.
Yes. I too enjoyed it and I tried to look back what I am doing, whether it is worth doing or what I should do. So thanks for giving this opportunity.